Hey everybody, welcome to Drive-Thru Review 272. Today I'm going to talk about Marvel Dice Masters. Now I don't have a box to show you because I stupidly threw out all my boxes and boosters. Normally I show a box right here. So instead, I will show a playmat. And I have this done at Printer Studio. This is actually in the rulebook. I'll put links up and stuff like that to this file. It's on Board Game Geek that is specially made for printerstudio.com. And I'll also talk a little bit more in detail about this. But if you haven't heard, Marvel Dice Masters is a new collectible game from WizKids. Superheroes, X-Men, Avengers, villains, heroes, all kinds of stuff. Basically, Couriers moved into a collectible game, but there are enough significant differences, I think, to make me enjoy the game. A little spoiler there. Was not a fan of Couriers. Did not make a big secret about that. But actually tried to replay Couriers the other day, not the other day, a couple weeks ago. And I still don't like it. So I figured, well, I'm liking this one. Did I miss something in Couriers? No, I didn't miss anything. So I will give you kind of more of a review than a how to play. Now if you go to watch it played on YouTube or Board Game Geek and you want it like a real strict, you know, here's all the mechanics and the rules, basically a rule book into video, then go check that out. Now I will talk about how to play, but I'm also going to kind of approach it more from a review aspect. Talk a little bit about deck building, you know, storage issues, the collectible thing, my microscopic little meta that I have going, and just a couple other things like that. So more of a review than anything else and than a playthrough. But I will come back to my talking head and kind of give you my final thoughts. So let's jump into taking a look at the game and then go from there. So here I've got the collection of Marvel Dice Masters. Now I've got my two main decks that I have built here. On this side I have sort of a stall deck, basically stalling to get the Incredible Hulk out. And then on the other side there I've got kind of a Rush Zerg deck, which is focused a lot on Ghost Rider. Now the first thing to look at here are these mats. So if we zoom in here a little bit, we take a look. So these mats again are from printerstudio.com. These are actually from the rulebook. Inside the rulebook there's actually a 2-page spread. And they will be coming out with mats officially from WizKids, but these are pretty cheap. I believe they're like 12 bucks a piece, maybe cheaper than that. I'll put the links and stuff up on the video and also to the file, which has the image here on Board Game Geek. So you can see a couple of things here. You've got your used area, your live tracker. You know, when you roll dice, you're going to put them in reserve and then spend them and move them over to the used. You may field characters, so obviously here if you have this guy as a character, you can pay his cost to move him in and then you can decide to attack, or you can leave him there. You don't have to attack. And if your character gets knocked out, he's going to go into the prep area here. And then when you draw dice from your bag, you're also going to draw anybody that's in your prep area and be able to roll those, and then you do whatever you want to pay for different things. Now the barf bags and things, I got rid of those. If you haven't seen the game, it comes with these like barf bag looking dice bags in the starter. So I just got these little cloth ones. It was like $6 for 10 of them, you know, from Amazon. So I just got a whole mess of these. So basically on your turn you're going to draw 4 dice out of this bag and then roll them. Now everybody starts with 8 of these sidekick dice here. So you can see these here. These are mostly different types of energy. So you've got fist energy, shield energy. You also have some wild energy. This can be used to pay for basically whatever. And you also have these little pawn characters here. These are sort of like little weakling 1/1 characters. Now the character here, you can see that's the cost to put it into play, and this is the attack value and the defense value. So if I were to put this into play, it won't cost me anything. Now, basically your whole turn is going to consist of rolling these dice, and one cool thing is you get to re-roll any or all of them once after you re-roll. So if you don't like anything, actually I have 5 here, I should have 4, but you can re-roll them all again and say, oh okay, cool, I got the energy I needed, or I got some more characters that I needed. So when you buy a die, it's going to go here to your used pile. So you can look at the cost here, you can see the beast here. So all of the cards have a little cost in the corner. So this costs 2 energy, but at least one of those needs to be that little mask energy there. So I can either use a mask energy, or I can use a question mark energy in that case. And sometimes you will get these that are generic. Now these are not wild, they're just kind of generic energy that can be used to pay the rest of the cost. So you're going to buy cards here, or excuse me, buy dice that will get put back into your bag. Once you run out of your bag, you basically put everything from a used pile and then draw some more. And then you're also going to have to be, you know, storing energy there to play the characters out into play. So you can see this beast here. This particular one cost 1 energy to get out. So you got to kind of make a decision between, you know, putting your guy out, or do I try to, you know, save up my energy to buy the big awesome characters like the 6 cost Hulk to the 5 cost Deadpool and things like that. And then there's a whole attacking step. You attack, you know, somebody else can block you. You can block with multiples on one attacker. If it goes through, the attacker comes off. He does the damage to you and your damage tracker goes down. If you block it and nobody kills each other, they just go back to the field zone. But if you get KO'd again, you go off to the side, and then you're going to grab anything in your KO'd pile when it's your turn to roll. Now you can leave reserve energy left over to play for some of these global abilities. If a card out here has a global on here, you can pay 1 shield energy to prevent 1 damage to a character or player. Now anybody can use that, even though, let's say I am fielding this deck here, my opponent can pay for those. So that's one thing you got to kind of do, is kind of everybody assess what global energy is available. And the other thing that's going to be available to all the players are these basic action cards. So each player is going to bring a deck of 8 characters, and that's the tournament rules. And you're going to bring 2 basic action cards, and then you just kind of randomly figure out who gets what color or whatever. But everybody can buy these. So if you look at this Power Bolt here, we go ahead and assign that to the red die, and then this has cost 3 energy. And then when you buy these, you can see these little action symbols here. So if you roll the die and it shows the energy number, you just get that much energy to pay for whatever. But if you roll this little action icon there, then you can do shield damage to 1 target character or player. So everybody can buy those. You're kind of bringing that to the table. Hopefully it's going to help your deck more than it helps your opponent's deck. So that's kind of the gist of how to play. You know, you buy dice and roll them, get characters out, and just smash each other in the face. Fits the superhero theme perfectly. Now the whole key of this is it's collectible, so you're going to be buying these different cards here. So there's like 3 or 4 different storms in the deck, and this one here, as you can see, this is a common one, so you'll have a bunch of these that you want to just throw away. And when you roll this character, you got level 1, 2, and 3. So basically you can either roll more energy, or you can roll different strengths of a character. And when this character is in play, you know, they'll have different effects. So when we field Storm, when fielded, reroll target opposing character. If the result is not a character, place that die in your opponent's use pile. So this is really good. So if your opponent has, you know, a big bad character like a big Hulk or a Wolverine, and then you roll her and field her, then your opponent has to re-roll that, and maybe it just turns into energy and goes away. So that's kind of a cool thematic thing. It's kind of like her wind or her weather thing is blowing her away. You have different effects here, like Gambit. When he goes into play, you can actually draw more dice as you come out. The Hulk, whenever the Hulk takes damage or you take damage, then you'll be able to field more of the Hulk dice. So if I have a Hulk here attacking and I've got a Hulk die here in my use pile, I can bring that in. The War Machine and Iron Man have a nice little combo together. And then you've got cards like this one, excuse me, dice like this one. This is a Ghost Rider here. Now it only costs 2 to buy one of his dice. He doesn't have any special ability, but he's got nice big attack there, 5/5, and it costs 3. But you can buy this, you could buy 2 of these on the first turn and put them in there. And so the chances of you drawing these big, you know, meaty, you know, punch you in the face characters is very easy. And, you know, as far as this goes, so you have like a nice balance here between the types of cards and decks that you can make. And as I said, this deck here is kind of my quick, you know, damage, punch you in your face deck. Seems to be slightly better than this deck, which kind of stalls out. But basically what this one is like if you have the Beast card here, let's take a look at that. If Beast is knocked out while blocking, you gain a life. And if you happen to roll the Burst there, which is interesting because this is actually the lower level of Beast, your opponent also takes 2 damage. So you can throw Beast blockers out, get them KO'd so they're going to come back in, and then you are going to gain a life every time that happens. So you can kind of try to stall the game out. If your opponent, you know, jumps on you with a bunch of these Ghost Riders, you can try to stall out a little bit, gain some life, use Gambit here to fish more and drive more dice out of your bag, use Storm to roll down any of the big attackers, then you move into the Iron Man and War Machine, who the Iron Man has a similar effect where you gain life, and War Machine actually gets beefed up if Iron Man's also in play. So if you have Iron Man in play and you have War Machine in play, War Machine is going to be that much greater. And then you have Deadpool kind of, you know, forcing people to block in different ways. And then finally you get your Hulks out and try to do a lot of big smashes, kind of overwhelm or overrun your opponents. So this is just a little bit that I've played with as far as the deck making goes and the deck building. One thing I haven't tried to do, but I've seen cards for it, and frankly I'm not usually good at building those kinds of decks, is kind of a control deck. There's a Loki character. If you remember Loki from Thor, you can use that to kind of steal other characters. There's also a rogue character from the X-Men. If you're not familiar with her, if she touches somebody else or touches a mutant or some other superhero, she kind of absorbs their power, so she can kind of also steal dice from your opponent. So there's a good variety here, a lot of thematic stuff that's going to happen. You know, when Hawkeye comes into play, he'll just ping and do a damage when he comes into play. And there's a variety of different types of characters, like obviously, so there's like a few different Wolverines. All of the Wolverine abilities say when you attack alone. And so when you attack alone, XYZ happens. Well, that's similar across all cards, and that's pretty much how all of these cards work. They have a similar sort of trigger for their abilities, but the actual outcome and the effect of the ability is going to be slightly different. And it doesn't necessarily mean that the super rare is going to be better than the rare, the common, or the uncommon. Now, it's in my experience that the super rares are really good, but you know, I'm happy having this one guy because it's more of a tactic trying to build around particularly Wolverine's trigger to get that to work and be effective, because if that trigger doesn't happen, who cares what the effect is at the end of the day. So this got a nice spread and idea here of how they've done the collectible part. But I want to show you a couple more storage things, because frankly it doesn't come with anything to store your stuff in at all. You know, there's no playmats. The playmats really help. You don't really need them, but it's a nice kind of visual representation to see, you know, kind of card count in a way, because I kind of know, oh, you know, you've got a bunch of Ghost Riders here. I know you're getting low on dice, so I know those Ghost Riders are going to come back out. Or if I get them cleared off early, then I know that I can be okay to attack you and then leave myself a little bit more vulnerable. So there's a lot of sort of push your luck, you know, kind of estimating how much your opponent's going to be able to bring back onto your face on their turn. So there's some nice gauging. So I think the playmats kind of help with that, sort of trying to, okay, he's got this over here, this over there. He's got a couple in his bag. I don't know what he's going to draw. Who knows what he's going to roll. So you've got that whole aspect working together sort of to piece out. Now, one thing that I found particularly nice for storage, kind of accidentally, are these trays here. And these, you can get these at gmtgames.com, and these are mainly for war games for counters. But they have enough room to store the different dice. Now, you don't really need more than 5 of any particular die, because if you look at the cards here, it tells you can bring a max of 4 gambit dice with this card. And the most I've seen is 5, and I think I've seen as little as 3. So I probably have excess of Jean Grey here. I don't think she goes over 3. I could be mistaken, but I think all of her cards say max 3. So, but I have 5 of everything just in case they release some promo card or expansion card that tells you to bring 5, and I'm sure they'll release dice with that. So these are really nice. I can kind of organize these. If you can see, these top 2 rows are for this deck here, the bottom row, and then these top 2 rows here are for the deck that's you know, over there. So it's easy to organize, and you can organize it however you want by team. So you could have, you know, here's Loki, and you could have him, you know, with Thor. So you can kind of keep them thematically together. And then you can just kind of organize all the dice this way. And this works really well, and it's easily expandable. So, you know, by the time the DC expansion comes out, or the X-Men expansion, I'll just get another tray or 2, and then I kind of have this kind of living, breathing, growing storage solution that I can just, you know, toss in a bag. So that's pretty nice. And then I have these dragon boxes here. These are just kind of these plastic boxes. So everything that I have in my collection that's it. That's all I got there, all the cards. You know, plus the cards that are out here on the table. And I think I'm missing, you know, like 3 super rares and 2 rares. And I've got everything else I need. I got a bunch of, you know, extras for trade and a couple extra of the basic action cards, because I did buy 2 starters. I will say that when starters do come back into circulation, I would get 2, just so you have the basic dice. You have extras of those so multiple people can play and things like that. So all you really need is one of these, or a small card box, you know, and then some trays, or you can get a Plano box and things like that, and it makes it really easy to store. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the overview. As you can tell, I think I really enjoy this game. It's much better than Couriers. Let's just get that out of the way. There's a lot of things I like about this game. So let's first talk about collectability, because I think that's probably the first thing on most people's minds. I think they've done the collectible model correctly here. Because if you think about it, like with Magic or some other card game, you would need multiple copies of a card. In this, you don't. I mean, you just need 1 copy of, like, the particular Wolverine common or the particular Wolverine, you know, uncommon. Now, they're different cards, but they're the same character. But you just need 1 of those. And by the time you get enough, you're going to have buckets of dice coming out of your ears. The dice are basically like lands at this point. I mean, you're just going to have them all over the place. So to me, they've done that right. Now, I've gotten, let's see, 135 of the packs plus the 2 starters. So, like I said, and then with some trading, I'm down to, I think, needing just the 3 super rares and 2 rares. So I'm missing 5 cards out of the whole set. 3 of which are super rares. So to me, that's definitely acceptable. And as I said, the balance of power and kind of like how the powers are triggered are the same across all of them. And, you know, that particular Ghost Rider I use is the common one. So, you know, that's a huge card. So, to me, they've done it correctly. I don't think you need to get 135 packs. Now, the stuff I've been reading online, if you get 6 booster boxes, which is like 360 packs, then you'll get everything, which is about $300 worth. I don't think you need to do that, but if you want to do that, then, you know, that's your problem. I mean, go for it. You know, I would say I do want the rest of those cards, but those will come to me in time. But I think it's done it right, because right as it stands now, I'm just going to stop and maybe try to get some trades, more trades done, but I'm kind of traded out as it is. So I've got enough stuff that I think I've built, you know, one really nice kind of aggro kind of speed deck and one sort of stall out, you know, and then smash you at the end of the game deck. And just because, you know, I'm learning the game and learning how the flow is going to happen, I haven't yet built like a, you know, a combo, you know, stall deck or control, not stall, but control deck or anything. But I do see the avenues there, and I think it's going to be, you know, available for folks to build those different styles of decks. So the other thing that I really like, it's almost like playing a minis game. You have the little dice there, you know, for the Beast or Wolverine. It's like having a little miniature. The icons really do look a lot like, you know, what you expect the character, like Wolverine sort of like has the leftovers when he's clawed like a sheet of paper or metal or something. It's got the, like the marks where the claws were. And, you know, you got the Iron Man face, and the Doctor Strange die is kind of a green translucent die. So it feels like you're moving that little guy around, because they did a really good job, and I don't think, you know, that can be oversold. That looks really well made. So, you know, I think it's something that you could get into, and you could get into it lightly, because not only have I built like games that I think are going to be competitive, but I've also, you know, horsed around with building like a monster deck. So I throw in like Venom and the Hulk and, you know, Thing, and just the big old hulking guys, you know, the big old blobby kind of strong guys. But you can do like a team of like Thor with Loki and have them team up, or, you know, Magneto with the X-Men and do X-Men versus Avengers. So you can have those thematic battles and kind of play those out. And that's one thing that an older game I used to play called Versus, you could do stuff like that. In a lot of ways, that was my favorite way to play the game, was just to do, hey, let's do, you know, this setup. And then you still have the great competitive game with that, at least. You know, this is kind of early for me to tell how good the metagame and the competitive scene is going to be. But even like with Versus, for example, I remember when that, for only the first set was out, you had, I think, well, I don't want to waste your time, but I think you had like 3 or 4 decks. You had like the New Brotherhood, the Doctor Doom deck, I can't remember what that was, and some stuff like that. But and there was a Sentinels deck. But anyway, so you had a handful of decks, and I feel like at the end of the day, there's going to be a handful of decks here that will be competitive and decent. And I've seen the games go very quickly, like 10 minutes. We're talking 10 minutes. Once you know how to play, just roll dice, you know, boom, 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 smash each other, or maybe one guy gets a little bit of an advantage because you don't roll so great. I know I've seen that. But it's over in 10 minutes, so no big deal. But I've seen like an epic game go like 45 minutes, where it's just like, between the 2 decks that I actually built there. I made some tweaks since then, but, you know, I had that quick deck where it was trying to come out, and I had given it to a friend of mine, and he probably wasn't playing it as quick as I would play it. But I was able to get like a lot of beasts out. I got very lucky early, so I got a lot of good defense to stave off that initial burst. And he still actually beat me, because it just, you know, the way we worked out trading damage and stuff like that and me generating life, he actually got me down. I think he was at 1 health or 2 health anyway, but he's just like, you know, just outnumbered me by that much at the end. A lot of back and forth using the global powers and stuff like that. So I've seen the, you know, the complete spectrum, which is what Magic used to do for me. You could have a very quick, just nasty, like 5-minute game, you know, okay, you drew a bunch of lands. I mean, you kind of have that here, where you could just kind of roll energy the whole time. That's feasible, but it's not something I've really seen that much. You're going to have those games. It's just the nature of this model. So go into it knowing that. If you have one of those games, you know, I haven't even seen it, and I've probably played this like at least 12 times or so, you know. So anyway, the last thing that I want to bring up is those global abilities and those basic action cards. That's a very interesting kind of dynamic that I haven't seen, definitely in a collectible game, where you bring a card to play and it's like, oh look, it helps you. You know, so you have to really consider that. And it's an interesting way to kind of balance the game. Or if I bring this, then you can use that against me. And the same with those basic action cards, where, you know, I'm basically saying, oh, here, you can buy these. You know, these will help you. You'd be like, oh, perfect. You know, these are for me. So I like that. It's kind of interesting. It's a lot to kind of take in the first time or two you play it, and to realize, oh, I have this global ability that's on your side of the table that I could have been using this whole time. So, like I said, you got to kind of take a step back and sort of assess that. So anyway, I think there's a lot of potential here, and the superhero theme obviously is great, and I can't wait for the DC. I could care less about the Yu-Gi-Oh one, but you know, I'd like to have Batman and Wolverine and Superman and the Thing, and you know, Superman versus the Hulk and all that cool stuff. And I'm looking forward to it, and my expectation is that the DC set and also the next Uncanny X-Men set will be really good, because I think that, you know, almost to a card, the abilities are thematic. So, you know, there's some that are kind of like, what does this mean? But for the most part, I get how it kind of interacts with, you know, the abstraction that the game is and all that kind of cool stuff. But so anyway, I would definitely take a look at it when it comes back around. Just buy yourself a starter or two, and maybe go in on a booster box with your buddy or something, and split them up, and then make your decks and smash each other in the face. Okay, thanks, bye.